Hello, welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Jillian and I channel the Akashic Records. So for those of you who are new here, the way that I access the records is I say a prayer which allows me to raise my vibration up into the dimensions of the records. After I've said the prayer, then I will start asking questions. Today, my video is going to be on death. I feel like death is a theme this year. We are in a 9-year. It's the year of the snake. I've been experiencing a lot of death metaphorically and physically in my life. I know there's a lot of you out there who have lost loved ones and are going through your own cycles of death and rebirth. So I am very curious to see what the Akashic Records are going to say about this topic. If you watched the video and you have follow-up questions or more questions, please let me know in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe. More videos like this coming weekly. I will say, because it's been summertime and it was my birthday, I have been slacking for a couple weeks, but we're getting the ball back rolling. We're getting back into it. Also, I'm going to be sharing some vlog style videos on this page as well, because I think it's important for you all to get to know me and my journey and little tidbits here and there about what I'm experiencing, because doing this work is truly life-changing, and I'm a testament to the life-changingness of this work. My life looks nothing like I would have imagined it to look when I was a child, and I have learned so much through this journey, so I would like to share it on a little bit more of a personal level and let you get to know me a little bit better. But that's not for this video. This video, we're going to be going into the records. We're going to be channeling about death, so let's get into it. So to start with, I say a prayer which raises my vibration up into the dimension of the records. Mother God, help me to open my heart, protect me and guide me away from any fears or resistance, remove all judgment, and allow me to channel the truth as it is revealed for our highest good and the highest good of all. Remove any obstacles from the connection to and the awareness of the truth. Help me to surrender to truth and allow it to flow through me unhindered. I now request access to the Akashic Records of the collective. Help me to know the collective in the light of the Akashic Records, to see the collective through the eyes of the Lords of the Records, and enable me to share the wisdom and compassion that the masters, teachers, and loved ones of the collective have for it. The Akashic Records are now open. Namaste. All right. So I want to know about death today. What is death from the Akashic Record perspective? So there is no such thing as true death from the Akashic Records perspective, because energy cannot be created or destroyed. But energy can change form. And so oftentimes when we are referring to a death, we are talking about a shift in an energy. This can be a shift from the physical to the non-physical. This can be a literal shedding of old energy, shedding of old skin. What happens to that energy once we release it? So, for example, if we are shedding an old part of us that no longer serves and we're releasing that energy, what does it do? So depending on your intentions with the energy, that is what happens to it. So if you are releasing energy, directing it at someone else, then that energy will go towards that other person. If they are not protected spiritually, they have the potential of taking that energy on. If they are protected, the energy will bounce off them, either be returned back to you or be sent to the heavens with love and forgiveness. If the energy is sent to the heavens, it is transmuted and alchemized, so it shifts form. And because it is returned with love, it becomes love and is then reconfigured and dispersed back out into the universe of this high vibration. So every time there is a death, a type of energy is being transmuted and shifted. And so in the physical realm, we often experience literal death. So we often experience the body dying. What happens when the body dies is the energy that was inside the body, you know, the soul, the essence of the person, does not vanish and disappear. It shifts into a different dimension. And it is true that sometimes souls can become trapped in the lower vibrations depending on the nature of their death and how they, you know, released themselves from the body. But it is not true. For example, there are some rumors about suicide that, you know, you get stuck in the lower realms or whatever happens. That is not necessarily true. You can go right back up into the higher realms, and oftentimes a person who does die by this nature, it is contracted into their soul purpose and their soul mission. Sometimes they will come back. I know in a previous incarnation I left that way, and so I came back to earth to essentially try again, try the experience again. So physical death is just a energy shifting from one dimension to another. And so our loved ones do exist on the other side. But the idea that they are, you know, the exact same person that they were when they were here and then they've gone to the other side and they're still that person, that isn't necessarily true. Once they go back to the other side, they reunite with their higher self and with their entire soul. They're also able to remember everything. That is one of the, you know, issues with earth, is when we incarnate into this realm, this lower dimensional realm, we don't remember our true nature, we don't remember our soul, we don't remember our past lives most often. And so once we return to the other side, we return to our entire consciousness as a soul. So if you are communicating with a being that is on the other side who has fully crossed over back into the higher realms of love and forgiveness, then they are going to take on whatever form resonates with you the most. So they are going to take on, you know, in your dreams, they're probably going to show up how you remember them. Oftentimes they might even show up as a younger version of themselves or an older version or whatever, but they're going to show up in a way that resonates with you personally. However, what they are is much bigger than that, and they're seeing things from a much bigger perspective. So I actually oftentimes think about death as, I don't want to say a positive thing because that doesn't have the right connotation to it, but sometimes when you have a challenging relationship with someone in the physical realm and then they cross over, you can actually have a stronger relationship with them once they cross over to the other side. We do have soul mates and soul contracts, and we have souls that are our friends throughout lifetimes. They're kindred spirits. We know them on this deep soul level. We know them from the other side. And so these souls are going to be with you no matter what. So if you have incarnated, you know, into a bloodline, your ancestors are connected to you, even though they're not in the physical realm. So they're still going to be with you in this physical realm, and they're still going to be communicating with you and talking to you. Now, if you have a soul loved one, they, you know, they might not even be a member of your family, but they may have been a friend or even a lover in this life. And once they cross over to the other side, a lot of them are still connected to you as well, and they're still communicating with you, they're still working with you, they're still just as close, if not closer, to you from the other side. I've said this before in previous videos, but oftentimes we'll incarnate with soulmates who actually we don't really like when we're in the physical realm, because we have this limited view and perception down here. We actually don't even really, you know, maybe they've cheated on us or something. But the thing is, a lot of times these souls, we actually make agreements with them before we come down to the physical plane, and they're actually really good friends of ours, which is also what can make it so confusing and what can make those, you know, really electric relationships so confusing from a physical level, because we do love them and we do know them, but who they are in this lifetime is not who they really are as a soul. And so therefore we, you know, maybe don't like them in this lifetime. And this is looking at this from this higher vibrational perspective of the idea that, you know, we are all part of a collective consciousness, and we forget that when we're here on the physical realm. And so whatever is, we always want to be asking for the highest good of all, because we have such a limited perception. We don't know what is for the highest good of everyone. We don't know what is for the highest good of, you know, these individuals in our lives. And what might be for their highest good might actually hurt us or cause us to feel emotion. Vice versa, what might be for our highest good might hurt them. And that doesn't mean it's not for the highest good of all. It is helping us to clear karma, helping us to raise our vibration, helping us to elevate in consciousness, helping us to learn and grow, which is why we are here as souls. We are here because we're here to learn and grow. And so if someone leaves your life physically, yes, it can cause you immense pain, immense grief, and that is all extremely valid. But understanding that grief is a symptom of love and is an emotion on that same scale, that it might be a painful emotion, but is a powerful emotion, just as love is a powerful emotion. And when we can take our power back from those emotions and lean into them and feel them fully, that is when we have learned the lessons and we have cleared out this lower vibrational energy, which is what we came here to do. We came here to clear away all that which is not ours, to step more deeply into unconditional love, step more deeply into love for ourselves. And unconditional love is a very confusing thing, because we have such built-in beliefs about what love is, and we have such built-in beliefs, like even looking in the world around us, and like the streams of thought that are going through us, the propaganda, you know, like what is love, what isn't love. Unconditional love simply is what's for the highest good of every being, and is putting the highest good above all. And a lot of times this is a deep learning experience for those of us who are more sensitive or more open, more empathetic, because we see love in a convoluted lens of this love that we were trying to receive as a child, and we received that love by putting others' needs before our own. But what we came here to learn is actually how to love ourselves first, above all. And through that discovering of how much we love ourselves, we are able to love others to the fullest capacity of them as well, because we see ourselves more fully, so therefore we see them more fully. Well, that was quite the tangent. That didn't really have much to do about death, but I'm assuming it does have some reason why they're bringing it up. So if someone is going through a painful death experience, what would the Akashic Records advice be? The Akashic Records have a very unemotional perspective, because they're not tuned into emotions the same way we are down here. And so a lot of times when someone is going through a breakup, their view is almost kind of harsh, because it's like, okay, well, that person's not a match. Bye. We have space for another one. And it's really that simple. Everything that we see in our reality is a reflection of what's going on inside of us and has been contracted in. If we lose a loved one, there is purpose in that. There is purpose in what that loved one's mission was here, what that loved one came here to do and came here to be, and, you know, the lessons that they are going through. There is a lesson in how to understand ourselves more deeply, love ourselves more deeply, hold ourselves through painful emotions and painful experiences. You know, right now on this planet, death is a theme that is spanned across the collective, because the old world is dying, the old frequency, the old way of being. The world that we see around us is quite literally dying and crumbling before our eyes. So in reflection of that, there is a lot of death that is happening personally. There are deaths happening around us, there is death happening within us, because the entire theme of the collective, the entire frequency right now is this frequency of death, this death of the old world. An example is, you know, when Rome fell, or when old civilizations fell. The world looked a lot different. There was a lot of different things that were accepted, a lot of different things that were normalized, and it fell apart. We recreated. Now we've recreated once again. There are things that are accepted that maybe aren't for the highest good. There are things that are normalized that maybe aren't actually helping us to grow. there are things that we see around that are not the truth. And there is so much convolution from what the truth is that it is really important for us to figure out what our personal truth is and to seek that information, to seek that wisdom, to seek out our higher self, because through the understanding that we are not alone, and we are not, this physical incarnation is not our only incarnation, that is the best way to come to acceptance with death. Because when we can fully embody, which means it's not just a thought up here, it's not just an idea, it's not just someone telling you we are all part of the collective, death isn't real, blah, blah, blah. It's not just me telling you that, but when you actually embody that energy and believe that energy, it makes things like death more bearable, more understood, easier to process. When we have this idea that we are fully separate, and that this life is the only life we have and we're alone on this planet, that is a really scary place to be. It makes total sense why grief and death would be so hard to comprehend and to understand. But when we zoom out and we look at it from this perspective of, this is just a tiny, tiny little fraction of time in the great span of all the time. Like, the earth has been around for like 7 billion years or something like that. We're alive for, I'm on, personally, Jillian, on year 33 out of this humongous span. So what is happening in this tiny, 100 years, if I'm lucky, on earth is not the entire like picture of who I am and who I am as a soul. So when we get to know who we are as a soul, we can see that soul in others, and we can accept things like death more easily. Now, with death comes emotions. And another reason why death is so hard to process and so hard to sit with and accept is because we do not know how to sit with and accept our emotions. A lot of us are scared of pain. We are scared of the feeling, for good reason. There is good reason why we're scared of these things, these uncomfortable feelings. But if we don't know how to feel the emotions, then they stay inside us, they stay bottled up, and they perpetuate. It actually it perpetuates suffering. When we're able to have an emotion, feel it, experience it, let it move through, we then create space for more love and understanding and more embodiment of our higher self. And with that, we ease suffering. It doesn't mean that, I know a lot of people struggle with death because it's ongoing. That person is physically gone, and that is hard, and that is something you need to feel and you need to grieve. It's not disproving it. It is one of the most painful things you are going to experience. And death isn't just a physical human dying. Death is, the end of a relationship, death, the end of a job, death, the end of a way of being, of a thought pattern, of a belief system, death. These are all deaths on the micro and the macro scale. And if you are a enlightened person, or you are a person seeking enlightenment or seeking growth, you are going to experience multiple deaths in every lifetime. And sometimes that internal death is going to be triggered by an external death, because everything that's happening externally is a reflection of what's going on internally. And so if someone externally dies outside of you, a piece of you dies as well. And that is what we need to grieve. That timeline maybe that we imagined, right? There's, when you see a future with someone and then that future is no more, there is grief involved in that projected future. When you look back on your life and you see the way that you were operating and you see how maybe that wasn't serving you, there is grief involved in what could have been, in what life might have looked like if that hadn't happened. And so the antidote for grief is acceptance. But what the misconception is that acceptance means spiritually bypassing our feelings, means skimming over the top of those, means looking at the bright side. And that is not what acceptance is. Acceptance is sitting in the moment, whatever it is right now, and fully feeling through all the things you are feeling without guilt and shame. If you feel like you want to, beat the shit out of someone, that is a valid feeling. It doesn't mean you're going to go do that thing. Maybe you're going to go, beat up a punching bag or something, but but the feeling is valid, and letting yourself feel that without shame and guilt is a skill. It takes time. It's not something that we are, most of us, born with, unless we have parents that have already learned how to do that and they teach us that from a young age. But for the most part, we weren't taught how to actually feel our emotions. And so while it doesn't make it easier, the antidote for death is acceptance, and accepting that whatever you're feeling is fully valid and it's allowed, and it's hard, right? Accepting that it's hard, accepting the humanness of this experience. We do have two perspectives, right? Two perceptions. We have our higher self, who is with us always, who sees things from this expanded point of view. We also have our lower self, which is our human self, our ego self, who we are in this life, which is comprised of our experiences that we've had and what we've made of those experiences, the conclusions that we've come to from those experiences, how we show up in this world. That version of ourself is the one feeling all of these lower vibrational emotions. So when we can learn to connect to our higher self and begin to have conversations between our higher self and our lower self, it is us holding space for those experiences. We can accept and believe and know and see this higher perspective while also loving and honoring and nurturing our human self, who is comprised of all of our experiences. You don't need to have one without the other. You can bring these two parts together and fully feel your feelings, because that is why it is happening in the first place. It is happening for you to feel those feelings. And unfortunately, for a lot of us, we have a very limited view on this world that we're living in. We were born here with amnesia. We can only see through our perspective, which means we can't see the bigger picture. We can't see what our loved one is doing now that they're on the other side. A lot of us have difficulty communicating with those loved ones on the other side. To me, that is an even greater reason to want to expand, to want to connect with your higher self, because it gives you the ability to feel your loved ones more deeply, to hear them, to see them, to have dreams with them, all of these things, even though they're not physically here and we can't physically touch them ever again. And that's just like the old versions of yourself. We can't go back in time. You can't ever have those other old experiences again. You can't go back and physically be that past version of yourself. You can't go back to you can never go back. You can't go back to the relationship that you were in and have it be perfect the way it once was. Those are deaths just the same. They are no more. They are no longer physically here. And whatever we need to feel in that acceptance is the medicine. And while we move through the feeling of it, that is where we find this love for ourselves, this love for the human experience, this bigger perspective. As a soul, we are doing exactly what we came here to do. And I know that that creates anger, that creates strife. That is a hard bullet to bite. And if me saying this to you pisses you off, then good. That's what it's supposed to do. It's supposed to piss you off. That means you have anger stored in there somewhere, right? Anytime when we take our power back from a situation, we understand no one can make us feel anything. It is our choice to experience that feeling. Now, is it our choice, lower self, or is it our choice, higher self? It's our higher self's choice, which means our lower self might not agree with that feeling, but our higher self has chosen this experience to create alchemy, to create a transmutation of old energy and to generate higher frequency energy, right? We are alchemizing the lower vibrations and moving towards higher vibration as a result. As we release and heal these lower emotions, where do they go? Like I talked about at the beginning of this video, energy can't be created or destroyed. A lot of times it is being transmuted into these higher realms, or it's being ping-ponged back and forth until one person decides to transmute it, right? And that is what is happening with death as well. It is the alchemy and the transmutation of energy into a higher frequency energy. And it is hard and it is painful, and that is the truth, and that is what we need to feel in these experiences, because through the feeling of that, that is what creates more space for us to embody more of our higher self, which means we have a deeper understanding of things and a deeper understanding of the process. We are contributing to the growth of the collective and of Mother Earth and of all that is. We are contributing to creating more light, but a lot of times it's not the way that we see it or understand it or experience it as a human. And so we do need empathy, we do need sympathy, we do need to be held in our emotions, but we also need to understand that we have the power here, and that from a higher perspective, we created this to allow ourselves these experiences to step more deeply into love with ourselves and with everyone. And our loved ones are never gone. Now, if a loved one is, let's say, if a soul is, like, let's say, trapped in this astral realm, in this middle realm, we can take the steps to help them to move on. If we feel like anytime you're communicating with a soul and you feel like they are shaming you or judging you, or they are not coming to you with unconditional love, that soul is still attached to their ego, which means they're still attached to their self in this physical realm. And that's not always healthy. So we can give if we are really connected to a loved one, if we're really, grasping at those emotions, we can sometimes create cords to them. And the way we can gift them is we can let them know it's safe for them to cross over to the other side fully and completely, and they will still be with us, and we can still carry them with us without that cord that's connecting them into the lower realms. A lot of humans who have died of a very traumatic death, sometimes they can be jarred out of their body, and this does create a layer of stuck, like souls that are stuck or lost. But it is always purposed, and that soul also always has the choice to come back to the light and to move more towards the light. This is where things do get a little bit more confusing. The astral realm is a very confusing place, but as a soul, we do always have that option to go back towards the light. And if we are not, for some reason, there is purpose in that as well. Until, it is time to move back towards the light. Eventually, we will all move back towards the light, right? Eventually, light is all there will be again, and everything will start all over again. And once there is all light, we won't be able to see anything. It'll just be all light, because we need the contrast of the light and the dark to even be able to have a physical world in the first place. But once we get all the way back to light, the process is going to start itself all over again. But right now, there are still some souls that are moving towards the dark, some that are moving towards the light, and eventually all the souls will move back towards the light. So we're talking like billions of years here as well, though. So we need to keep that in mind, that some souls might choose not to right now, and that's okay. But any of these souls that have been, trapped in these realms, we can help them to move over, right? We can create tunnels and passageways, especially those of us who are Reiki certified. This is maybe more a conversation for somebody who is in a healer role, or in a role that is wanting to help with the collective. But we can create tunnels of light by working with the guides in the higher realms to help these souls to cross over. So if you're listening to this and you have someone who maybe you think is stuck or trapped or hasn't fully crossed over, find a local healer, or you could reach out to me, and we can see what's going on here to see if they do need help crossing over fully to the other side. But once they're fully on the other side, they're a being of unconditional love. They're in complete acceptance of what has happened. They're at peace. They are, with you and helping you on your journey. They're a member of your team, and they're helping you as you try to navigate this physical realm, which is a very confusing place. Well, they've reconnected with their true essence, so they remember everything now. So they're back, where they're not meant to be, but they're back in this realm where they can see the full picture, and so they can help you from this full picture perspective. And I know it can be really hard to see the full picture sometimes. Me, Jillian, personally, going through a huge period of death, and it's hard. I'm not discounting that whatsoever, but by learning about yourself and connecting with your higher self, you will find more ease because you will just understand things more deeply, and so it won't be so confusing and lonely and hard, and you know, these types of emotions. It does make it easier to transmute them when you do have a connection with your higher self who can help you to walk through it. I think that's like the biggest message of this video, is like doing the inner work to get to know yourself more deeply is really what's going to bring you the most peace as you try to navigate the realms of death. Because it's a vast, confusing topic, and you know, this whole world is vast and confusing, and so figuring out who we are is really the key to finding peace and finding joy. And you know, you don't know till you do it. So if you are someone who struggles with feeling your emotions, I believe that would be the first step, is learning how to feel, finding a process for feeling and transmuting and alchemizing that works for you. That is, you know, step number one in figuring out who you really are, because through the tunnel of feeling these difficult emotions, the answers come to you, the wisdom, the clarity, it all comes to you through this tunnel. Now, if you have a loved one who is getting close to death, Jillian had a really cool experience with my grandpa when he was getting close to crossing over, and he called me to his bed, and he had this look in his eyes, this like joyful, excited, youthful look. And what can happen when you're getting really close to death is the veil gets really thin. So you are still here in this physical human body, but you are more connected to the other realms. So your consciousness is starting to expand, and you're starting to embody and see and feel the bigger picture even before you have left your body. This is where we have experiences where someone crossing over can like see their loved ones in the distance, you know, their loved ones who are there waiting to meet them and greet them and help them to cross over, because the period of crossing over is also a process for a soul. When a soul crosses over, they go through, you know, it's not just like, oh, poof, and then they're gone. You know, the gates of heaven, it's not it's not a real thing, right? There isn't a gate up in the clouds, unless that is maybe what that person is imagining and what that person wants to experience, because everyone's going to experience higher realms of consciousness differently. And if you're a more visual person, maybe that might be how you experience it, but that's neither here nor there. When you're crossing over, you go through a period of you know, you first cross over, and then you look at your life and you look at everything you experienced, and you like kind of do like an inventory of what you crossed off your list, what you maybe need to work on next time. And it's sort of like this, and it's not done where they're actually sitting there looking at a piece of paper. It's like an energetic thing. It's like puzzle pieces going together. It's like the energy itself is like, okay, what have we, you know, completed? What is maybe still incomplete? What do we need to do next time? And it's this process of like energetic reconfiguration that happens with the soul. And this process can take up to, you know, 3 months. So if you're not able to communicate with a loved one on the other side right away, it's not because you are doing something wrong or they're not over there. It's because they're in their own period of transition. Some souls right away, when they cross over, they're going to step into another role. They're going to step into a higher vibrational, higher realm role. They're going to incarnate on different planets, and they're going to kind of get right next into their next life. Now, remembering a sliver of ourself is always connected to source and always connected to our higher self. So even if your loved one chooses to go off and reincarnate right away, or incarnate on another planet, or maybe they take on a role, you know, on the other side of helping with the souls, because some of these higher vibrational souls are not always incarnating in bodies. Some of these higher vibrational souls, when they are in the in-between, they actually have, you know, jobs and things to do. Like some of them are working in these portals and helping the souls cross over. Some of them are helping, you know, figure out the net. Like some of these souls, they're not right away going and incarnating into a new life. They are connecting in more with their higher self, and they actually have jobs and roles in this in-between realm. And so, but with this being said, if that's happening, if they are reincarnating, a sliver, like a piece of them, is still connected to source and their higher self, which means you can still communicate with them. Now, I know that sounds confusing because they're off living a new life, but they're still, it's just a part of them that is off living the new life. Their whole soul essence is still connected in this higher realm. And so you can still communicate with them, and they can still communicate with you, and you still have this guide protecting you. In that breath, what's kind of cool is that, you know, even your loved ones who are alive right now on this planet still have a piece of them that is connected to this higher realm. And so you always have the option to connect with your loved ones' higher selves, or even people that are no longer in your life. Let's say your ex, right? You didn't maybe have proper closure with them. You can go into like a meditative space, or you can write a letter or connect with their higher self, because your souls know each other on that higher realm, even though there's a sliver of them here down in the physical as well. You can go back to these past versions, these past beliefs, and you can connect with them and find love for them and closure, and, you know, experience whatever you need, even if they're still alive in another body, they've reincarnated on another planet, whatever that might be. There's still a piece of them in these higher realms that you can connect with. So you're never going to lose them. They're never going to be gone. And there is a version of you in these higher realms too that is maybe supporting them on their next planet or in their next life. So, you know, it's very confusing, but there's so much more going on out there than what we are aware of. So yeah, when a loved one goes to cross over from this side to the other side, the veil gets really thin, and a lot of times they will be re-energized or filled with life because they're feeling into the next step, which is this space of unconditional love and expansion, and is so much more vast than these limited 3D bodies. They're like feeling excited for this. And so death is actually like a joyful, positive thing for the soul. So yes, I feel like I feel like that is a good video. That is quite long, but that's what they wanted to share today. So thank you so much for being here. If you have more questions, please feel free to leave those in the comments. Follow, like, subscribe, and stay tuned for my soon to come video, which is going to be more of a vlog style video. I'm excited to share a little bit more of myself with you, in hopes that it inspires you and it helps to let you see things, you know, see the world the way that I see the world, because I feel like sometimes I see the world a little bit differently. And so, yeah, thank you so much for being here, and we'll see you in the next one.